Right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and all of that stuff. How's everyone doing? Are we winning? Look in at Whiff, Bonk, and Pepe. Some analysis, bro, please. Maybe. Maybe we'll do some analysis. Maybe we'll just talk about some charts. Maybe I'll just tell you about how wonderful my holidays were. Maybe we'll do all of the above. We will see. How's everyone doing? I've been out of the game for, what, 2 or 3 weeks now, basically. I went to the States, went to Florida, and did all the theme parks and attractions and stuff after a bit of drama with my wife getting left at the airport. So I missed a bit of the fun, but came back, smashed out a 25% trade on Altcoin pretty much day one, which is nice. Yeah, good old Altcoin, nice and easy, free money gains, all that kind of shite. All right, we're up 30%, fine. I like to undersell things, but yeah, that's like literally all I've done. And now I want to long Ethereum Cash, like a total Chad. But we'll come on to that. How's my date with Doc? It was great. He's the first person I've doxed to in the crypto world, as in like, well, Magus I'm technically doxed to, but I've never met Magus. So yeah, I met Doc. That was awesome. He's a legend. Very nice chap. It was nice because we just chilled around Harry Potter Land in Universal. Anyway, you probably don't want to hear too much about that. So yeah, let's jump into some market stuff, shall we? First off, shout out to Desync for sponsoring Destra Network, for sponsoring the stream. Absolute legends. And this chart is actually starting to look a bit more healthy in terms of, you know, big sell-off. We talked about it quite a few times. Big sell-off, starting to kind of range and hopefully create that like accumulation low, and then hopefully we do something like this and run it back turbo. I think there's definitely a bit of a narrative on this rotation in terms of like, it's lots of memes and AI-esque coins. Obviously, Farcoin being the best from my personal selection, which is why I longed it. I spoke about it at length in the Paragon group as to why I'm choosing Farcoin over everything else. I think asset selection, in this kind of environment is, very, very important. Like, obviously, we've got Bert there, which is a bag I've round trip massively on. And that's doing very well, but it's down like 90% from the highs or something. But yeah, having a decent position now in Farcoin and Bert, starting to run it back turbo along with things like Bonk and Pengu, just shows that actually risk profile is shifting a little bit, which is nice. Nice to see. Thoughts on the rise of those Yankee ultra-Christian fundamentalist crypto channels that do TA based on prophetic dreams and Bible verses? Send me some links, mate. I'll subscribe. I can't wait. I think that seems pretty reasonable. Who am I to judge? Welcome back. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good to be back, genuinely. I'm actually quite hyped in terms of, like, there's actually some volatility. Bitcoin has hit 91k, which is, pretty incredible from this, downtrending dogshit, like, price action that we've had for the last however long. This is kind of getting me to the point where I need to close my shorts, probably rebuy some spot bags if we do something like this, if we sort of establish the whole digital gold narrative and all of that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it's looking pretty decent, and obviously TardFi is still not looking particularly wonderful. So the relative strength, we can either be concerned about it or we can celebrate it. It's I would much rather do the latter. Like, for me, this is the big line in the sand around that 91 to 92k level. I've talked about it again and again and again. For me, this is like, well, if I was going to short anywhere, like a fresh short, it would be here pretty much. A push into this previous consolidation and a rejection from that would get me pretty bearish. But I don't really want to be thinking about those scenarios. I don't really want to be averaging down a short from 105 to something like 99. I'd much rather just play it alongside if we get that push and close above. Welcome back, we've missed you. Cheers, Dino. Yeah, it's been one of those kind of weird periods as well in the market where it felt like there was kind of nothing and I wasn't missing out much, and then obviously tariff wars hit and we got into those 70s, and I was like, I kind of really wanted to just log in and buy some spot Bitcoin, just the spot Bitcoin that I essentially sold up here, but yeah, I had problems with Bybit and stuff, and I was in the States and I didn't have a VPN sorted and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I unfortunately could not, because I thought anything starting with a 7 really, and I think we spoke about this on the last stream that I did publicly, is that the most bullish scenario in terms of short-term price action is, we've got this level across here essentially, and if we sell off and front run that level or V-reverse strongly from it, that is, that's a kind of clear sign that there's at least going to be a good rotation afterwards. But yeah, I've played Bitcoin like a pussy personally. I'm still sat on my short from up here. Same with ETH. I'm still sat in a 2.7k ETH short. But obviously, this is a very nice candle in terms of hopefully trying to push up and break that downtrend. But yeah, we will see if it's got any legs. We will see if it's got any longevity to it. Obviously, all of this is a really, really nice sign, but I'm not screaming bull market just yet, up only. It's still kind of not incredible on Bitcoin until we reclaim that 91k, and then I'll have to completely reassess my short positions and yada yada yada. Next trades for me, I'm not sure. Probably a Altcoin, something or other. I think someone in the chat pointed out that this is quite an OI and perp driven rally, which lovely. They tend to not last as well as spots, but we will see. The fact that we're kind of starting to diverge off these highs now suggests to me that I think that like the meat of this move at a very high time frame pivotal area, i.e. this 91-92 area, is probably done, or at least it's done for the day. And it will be very interesting to see how we close and how we come into this tomorrow. Obviously, I'm not trading now, and like I said, I'm not pushing my 105k or whatever it is average down to something like this to just get more size on the position. It's fine. I don't want to do that. But yeah, here's a reasonable place to kind of take that short trade if you really wanted to. You wanted to hedge against, a big move to the downside. But the arguments against that for me, and why I'm not trying to like bring this down and like take fresh shorts, is simply that it's probably too early in terms of like, yeah, there's a little div going across here, but do I really want to take it? It hasn't exactly been an explosive move and a rejection, which I like playing, right? Because it's kind of the opposite of capitulation. So you have this kind of slow, painful grind down, and then you have the big move that just shakes everyone out and does this. Now, I like longing these on low time frame, these rotations. This is the start of a new rotation. So conversely, if I was going to short something, it would be on the same logic to the upside, right? A slow, painful grind, maybe a bit of acceleration, and then boom, big, strong move that just gets like instantly bonked down. This is the area where I would expect sellers to step in. So, the fact that we've got some confluence in terms of weakening momentum into a high time frame pivot, that kind of sets us up for a potential short. But I would much rather see like a strong move and like a triple divergence across these highs, with then something like this, like that. Everyone's going to get swept up in the narrative. We've had a green day, which we haven't seen in a long time. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to just see it like, completely reject. This, and this. All kind of 3 rejections from the same place-ish. I mean, that was obviously not, but 3 attempts to break above it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see this, and then actually something like that, right? So come back down to here, or maybe front run it ever so slightly. Because for me, I don't want to buy here. I don't want to long here. I'd long a reclaim like this, right? So buy here, because then we've essentially got, this is the range low here, and this pivot. This is the range high, trade one is something like this. That's a short position. Well done, Charlie. You're going to have to forgive me a little bit, boys. I'm a little bit rusty. As you can probably see, trade one's kind of to the highs up here. And then, further, if we actually start trending and we catch on to like a digital gold narrative and all that kind of stuff, and we aim for new highs. But yeah, I've kind of missed this little trade. I was talking about it yesterday in the group, actually. Yesterday? No, it was Sunday. And it was this. It was... No, I've obviously deleted it. Doesn't matter. It was this consolidation in here either way. It was this, and when we reclaimed essentially that mid-range, I didn't take the trade because I don't like trading it like in ranges unless you get the sell-offs and the reclaims. I want to see strength, or I want to see like weakness. I want to see the extremes be sort of punished. This or this, something like that, right? They're the areas that I want to interact with. With a mid-range test back here, which is what I was talking about on Sunday, yeah, that lines up. That was actually quite nice in terms of you've got this mid-range going across here. And we kind of sold off into it. And then reclaimed that former support. And then it just fucking blasted. But yeah, I kind of think that this will retrace. Can you do Tesla? Salome has cancelled, not enough time. If we retrace what was the lowest we could go, we would remain optimistic. We'll try for late 90s. So it depends what you mean by optimistic. Like, if you start zooming out, right, high time frame, like monthly, and I posted something similar, on Twitter, that from a monthly perspective, the market structure is still good. This is still a strong uptrend. We're still consolidating well above like the former cycle all-time highs, but also like the former consolidation, we didn't even retest it, right? So it's pretty bullish from both a market structure perspective and from the fact that, we're front running at like what I would call a very key and pivotal level across here. So with that in mind, if we're front running those levels and we're not even coming back in to test it and, grab a bit of liquidity there, well, it tells you that people are willing to sort of pay the price here at the sort of 70, 74, 75 mark, right? And that's good. That's good for now. So how low could it go before I start going, this is fucked? It kind of depends on the structure a little bit. So for me, if it goes here, like if it actually starts rolling over here, it doesn't matter too much how low it goes, because you would start seeing that actually from a monthly perspective, we've really changed that market structure, and that would be the first time that we've got a sort of printed lower high, and actually that momentum dying off would be quite a sign of actually the market's not ready. So if we don't push above and reclaim that 91 or 91 and a half, whatever it is, like that's a huge sign of weakness for me, right? And that means that like it's kind of cooked. So I don't necessarily think it's about how low it goes. Obviously, if it goes down to like 50k or something, it's totally over, and that's probably like cycle lows. But yeah, for me, it's how it reacts here, and then the next area, the next big area, is obviously like across here, right? The kind of 71 area, and I think if we come back into this area, I don't think we get a strong bounce, and certainly if we don't, then the chances of it ranging within this former consolidation, and playing like the highs to the lows, and maybe putting Sailor under pressure, because there's going to be a lot of, if it gets down to here, it'll be tough, because a lot of participants will freak out the fact that like Sailor's average is somewhere in here. Question on the RSI, how far back would you go to look for divergences? Is there a time-based rule, e.g. if starting point of divergence is half a screen across, would that counts as div. No, it's 14 points is the typical one. So this takes 14, which is the default setting on most RSIs. It's 14 candles, so, you know, each one of these, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. So it's like this. So you really only ever want to be going back like 14 periods. You don't want these RSI divs that people draw on Twitter that are like this. And they go like, oh, you know, price is going down, which let's just pretend it is nice and neat. And this is going up. Because what that actually tells you is, like, there's a bit of a momentum shift to the upside, right? If you're looking at RSI there, it's clearly going up and to the right. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense. It's going up. But is that actionable? Not particularly. It's only actionable when it's in, you know, a kind of little 14 period window of it. You know, you look at that, kind of price is going up, but momentum is ever so slightly dying. Now, do you want to take that trade? Maybe, maybe not. There's probably some cleaner examples, actually. I think that one's a little bit... Nah, it's not even clean. Let's go for some 4-hour divs, see if we can find a decent one. See, like, they're equal lows, bit shite. That's not really a clean div, but we can take it. It's a kind of divergence nonetheless in terms of your consistent lower lows. And then you've got... maybe not, ever so slightly higher lows on RSI, and it's at an extreme. I mean, this isn't particularly great, but we'll ignore that for the purposes of this. So, you know, is this over the 14 candle length? I think it just about is. I can't count those candles mentally because I'm too slow. 17 bars, yeah, there you go. So this is probably more actionable. Like I'd say that's fine, right? 17. If it is actually, you know, a decent div, but if it starts going like well above and it's like 30 candles and stuff like that, it's just pointless. It's shite. Do you get any information about the desync roadmap? I think I did. I think 85k before 92 reclaim. Yeah, potentially, and I think that's why I like the idea of, like, if you did want to short, like, he is not a terrible place to do it. I just think that actually what will happen is we'll get that push, we'll get that kind of initiation push that fails, and I think that'll be the actual short to take if you were going to be aggressive about it. And if you really wanted to enter like a you know, counter trend position right now with no real clear signals or anything like that, you'd have to have a very wide stop, which kind of makes the trade, you know, not worth it particularly. Take less trades and take better trades is how I'm trying to approach the market. Yeah, that's my thoughts around Bitcoin. So a lot to do around this 91, 92 level. Certainly time to pay attention, because, you know, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that, right, if I'm wrong and we just flip this, or we just literally like print a vertical candle for like 3 or 4k or something, we get to like 95. Like, the risk appetite on alts is likely to flip instantly as well, because, you know, all alts are basically obliterated. Yeah, I'll just pick something like NEAR. I'm not going to pick OM, right? You know, it's been in a strong downtrend for some time now. You know, this is a daily chart, and it has just been going down and down and down and down and down and down. We're starting to flip, you know, the daily trend, the level of actually, you know, an elongated EMA that says, well, actually, we could be breaking that trend here. We could be starting, you know, to push a fresh uptrend, which would be great for all of our bags and all of our sanity, to be quite frank. But until we print that kind of new higher low, it's going to be quite difficult to really get on board with it. Same for AO. AO's actually calculated differently. So AO is the difference between two moving averages, or two EMAs. And yeah, that can be done over a longer period. So like if you were doing like this, for example, it wouldn't make, you know, as much difference. Like, it's telling you quite objectively that you know, momentum is dying in this move compared to that move, and you've kind of got the confluence of actually, you know, RSI is pointing the same way. So just telling you that price is, you know, the momentum of price is getting much weaker the further up you go, which kind of tells you that it's likely to turn sooner rather than later. Yeah. Hello, just joined the stream. Why are you so bearish? Every RSI except daily shows otherwise. So I don't think you can just say, unobjectively it's bullish or bearish, right? Based off RSI. You can use it as an indicator and say, like, just like anything, right? That RSI is overbought, RSI is oversold. I mean, look at this, right? Over here, RSI was kind of overbought here. The first candle that pushed us out of this range, right? Now, for me, and this is where like there's a lot of nuance in RSI, because we had this consolidation for what was it, 4, 5, oh, it's fucking ages. Let's do the time thing. Bosh. 268 days. So best part of 8 months, let's say. So 8 months. So we break out and we get overbought. Okay. Was that a bad thing? Because you've actually had an 8-month consolidation. The bigger the consolidation, the bigger the expansion, typically. So that's not a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? You have to rationalize that, like, these are all indicators, and in fact, RSI is just price, but rewritten. So you could work this out just by looking at this. But anyway, that's a different story. It's not that I'm bearish as such. I'm not like, oh my god, it's all going to zero, yada yada yada. It's just, for me, I can't long this right here. I would actually rather rebuy on my spot a bit higher. If we reclaim that 91, 92 level, I think that's the sensible play from here. If you went balls deep under 70k, under 80k, and you were buying in this region, then that's a great trade. If you're buying anywhere in here, that's great. Yes, maybe hold that and see how far it goes, or take some off, at this resistance, this pivot, and look to rebuy higher, kind of protect yourself or hedge with a short or whatever. But like, this is like just the danger zone for me, right? That's the danger zone. So this isn't where I want to be, like going balls deep in a load of fresh positions. This is where I go, okay, well, if we start pushing above and reclaiming, hopefully we don't go that high. Hopefully it's a little bit less dramatic and it's like this, or there's some consolidation here, then great. That'll be a really nice, easy trade. Let's stock at RSI. Ah, okay. Yield all-time high weekly close on the cards possibility. Subsquid SQD, very strong. TRX as well. Well, lots of lovely shitcoins there. Good God. Also, dominance shows great. I mean, I think. Let's have a look. Because yeah, dominance. We talked about dominance loads of times before, didn't we? The dominance is just ripping, but dominance is just a proxy of, are people buying Bitcoin or are they buying altcoins, essentially? And, at the moment, the number of altcoins outperforming Bitcoin, you've got so many, like, just from this last rotation, like, underperforming Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 4.5%, and there's a ton of altcoins that are underperforming it. So when that happens, Bitcoin dominance just goes up, because, like, Farcoin, I imagine, isn't even in the index for Bitcoin dominance. It might be. I probably got that wrong, but all we're saying is that Bitcoin is going up. What was that? Yeah, Bitcoin is going up proportionally more than the others compared to altcoins by their market cap, or by their respective market caps, I should say. So, the crypto market is more Bitcoin in terms of total market cap here than it was there as a percentage. And yeah, we talked about this dynamic quite a few times in terms of, I think it's just going to kind of go up and to the right. And if we got to 70% dominance or something like that, it'd be absolutely wild. But it's kind of how it should be, I think. In that a lot of altcoins towards the end of the cycle were, how do I say, sketchy at best. Do you think it's possible we have a big range for a bit? I mean, anything's possible. I think the reason that I would like it to range for a long time, I'd like it to range for a while, because, similarly to back here, the longer the consolidation, typically the bigger the expansion, right? And that logic rings true on alts, on TradFi, on everything. But I think with the way that the world is at the moment, in terms of its kind of highly volatile, news-driven events, people are on the edge of their seats with this kind of stuff and not really directionally kind of exposed, I don't think. At least a lot of my friends aren't. And, they're kind of unclear as to what the next legs of the market looks like, all the tariff wars and everything else going on. So I think a lot of people are risk off, and are generally, or at least a lot of my peers are. But do I think it'll end in a range? Don't know. I don't think so. I think the market is too volatile for it just to range and not do anything kind of interesting. On a low time frame basis, yeah, but though I think we get a big, huge sort of contracted out range somewhere up here for a while. I don't think so. But again, I could be wrong. The only thing that I'm worrying about is the 3-month stock RSI pullback. Let's have a look. I think the problem is with charts like this, like, I'm not sure how people can kind of look at that and say it's a bearish looking chart. Looks pretty bullish to me in terms of both structure, in terms of how it's kind of evolved. Initial run up, sell off, run up, sell off, run up, kind of lower high, but fill the wick there. Like, it's bullish. It's going up and to the right, isn't it? Let's be honest. Let's put it really simply. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be particularly worried. Message deleted. Okay. Yeah, let's go on to some other stuff. So Fartcoin, obviously everyone loves Fartcoin. It's just ripping. Where's the next kind of trade on Fartcoin? I mean, potentially if we get a pullback across here, and we get something that either goes like this, so we go into it, and then we go like that, or we just front run it and we do this, right? So what I'm looking for to enter those trades, if you don't have a Fartcoin position already, is low time frame relative strength. So where is it at the moment? Obviously OM, which is what a candle, by the way, or what a series of candles, absolutely wild chart. We'll go to that in a bit. It's doing well. It's still strong from a relative strength perspective. Oh, sorry, I had a cramp in my jaw. That's wild. But yeah, you're looking at something like this, like hoping this isn't essentially a range and then a deviation. So the same kind of setup that we were looking at before, right? Looking for this, looking for low time frame relative strength, looking for that fresh position to run it up to the highs again and just kind of keep going. Yeah. When Bitcoin rolls over from 92 to 95k, it's gonna heat up or get hurt first. They'll get hurt. So whenever Bitcoin dies, alts die with it, and they usually die at a much faster rate. So Bitcoin's down 4 or 5%, alts will be down 10. Right? Then when Bitcoin goes up 5%, the alts that you want to be long in are the ones that are doing this, like Fartcoin, right? So think about it like this. If you look at this, Bitcoin's up 4 or 5%, Fartcoin's up 22%, and at the highs it was up 25%. So you've got a 5x return on still decent liquidity, between the two. If you bought the lows, obviously, this is perfect low to high. But that's why I trade altcoins, because the moves are far in excess of what Bitcoin can offer you. But when you do take bigger positions, Bitcoin is much, 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 much better for it, obviously. You can check your beloved one ETC. Yeah, let's go. So ETC, so my thought process behind ETC is pretty simple. So hopefully everyone's clear with that in terms of Fartcoin, what to look for, how to take a trade, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, not financial advice, educational purposes only, yada, 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 yada. Kind of you will do you. But let's have a look at Bonk. We talked about Bonk before. Yeah, it's not really much to talk about. It looks the same as most other charts. Yeah, needs to break out now. That's what I mean. A lot of charts are in this kind of limbo phase of like, this isn't where I want to long, but this could get interesting really, really quickly. Like a lot of other things, because we are basically fronting up to high time frame resistance. I do want to talk about OM very briefly, just because I was on holiday when this happened. And I think this is one of the wildest charts in crypto. Just in terms of, kind of reminds me of the turkeys at Christmas meme. Every day, the day in the life of a turkey. It's like this, boom, 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 life expectancy and quality of life, and then it's whoop, absolutely dead as a dodo. But it's just a kind of subtle reminder to have stops, take profits, do all that kind of stuff. Because I was long, I don't know, somewhere up here. I longed it, I closed half the position, it round tripped the rest of it, I closed it, and I basically round tripped half my gains and took that element of the trade off at break even. But had I held it, obviously I would have been down here, and I would have been down enormous. Altcoin to $3, just like orange juice. Yeah. But, to me, this is kind of like, is this the start of the new rally, the new bull run, and all this kind of stuff? I'm not going to be convinced of it until we reclaim 91, 92, like this pivot that we've talked about. So I also don't want to be going balls deep exposure to a load of altcoins, whilst they are in very structured high time frame downtrends. I want to see breakout. So you take Bonk as an example. Do I want to take this and do I want to run it back turbo from the div that happened way back here? Not particularly. It's nice. We talked about it. I think I know other people who have taken this exact trade off this setup that I talked through. But for me, it's that first move out of this consolidation that's when market's going to get really excited and really horny, I imagine. And that's where we'll crush it playing rotations. Is the Fartcoin Maxi stream? Yeah, mate. Yeah. But I did unload some of my spot Fartcoin. I've still got my perp, some of my perp position. From 30 something cents or something. Same to Euphoric. Yeah, I mean, this is it. I come home, I record a session in the Paragon for 10 minutes and say, right, this is the trade I'm taking, bosh, bosh, bosh. Come back, basically take 30-odd% out of the market after a couple of days, after a couple of weeks off, and then getting that after 2 days. I feel a bit like, there was a good question about imposter syndrome and stuff. Yeah, and it's I feel a bit like this game's so easy, and it's not. It's absolutely not. I've had so many painful moments throughout my trading career, but sometimes you just come back and bosh, there you go. There's free money on the table. You just have to pick it up. And obviously you never know that it's free money, right? But it just never really came back to entry. It just kept running the strongest runner, and yeah, everything just worked out nicely. Lovely. I'm okay with buying higher? Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. That's exactly my attitude, is I am fine with buying higher if I have to. It's always better to turn up to the right party late than arrive early at the wrong one. I think as long as you're keeping your head about you and you're managing your risk, the thing that I saw a lot of people do towards the end of the bull run, and we talked about it as well, is that most people's portfolios go like this, right? And most people's risk appetite goes like this, because they think, "Fucking hell, I'm a genius. This is great." Whereas, what most people who survive do is they go, okay, well, I can maybe take like some calculated risks still because the conditions are hot, but in general, I want my risk appetite to kind of go like this, you know. The odd trade, I might go, well, do you know what? This XRP news is the example I always go back to, is a big deal, and it's a massive deal, and I'm actually going to risk, 3, 4, 5% of my account balance for this because I'm here, I'm early, it's fast, it's big, it's more than a 4% move. It's just the 4% that it went up, like off the news, was so underpriced in my opinion. I was like, there is no way that we are closing the day like this off of like the biggest, win ever. So I went balls deep in that position, and it just went vroom, it went up, I think it was like 89% or something, within a couple of hours. So yeah, sometimes you're allowed to adjust your parameters a little bit, but as a matter of principle, it should be like that in my opinion. And then when you get the signs and the reclaims and all that kind of stuff, that's great. Like, that's when you're just playing a fresh and a new trade with its own risk reward, and that works well. And people say that euphoria everywhere. I actually think that there's a lot of like good traders who have been positioned well into this or played some nice rotations like this one. Yeah, maybe feeling a little bit euphoric, but it's nothing like the kind of euphoria that we had 6 months ago, right? ETH BTC still looks like dog shit. ETH still looks like dog shit. We tend to get these kind of moves where it pushes up and then it just dies off. I wouldn't be surprised to see it kind of do the same. And yes, that might be a nice trade to 1800 or something, but structurally it still looks like hot, heavy garbage. Still under daily trends, still in this massive downtrending channel. I would much rather buy this. Much rather buy that. Yeah, let's have a look at some other stuff like Pepe. Pepe actually looks a little bit stronger, so some people have asked about like Pepe and other stuff. Looks a little bit stronger than a lot of alts, but still, structurally, like, missed the bulk of this rotation, which is absolutely fine. You start looking at this and being like, well, that was kind of the point when it really started breaking out, and then you got the confluence of, a support down here. And that was kind of the trade setup. Like, I am awful at joining trends when they're kind of like up here. That's a pretty, not parabolic run, but it's the kind of start of a parabola potentially. And I struggle to trade that. Just not very good. So yeah, will we see something like this maybe? And then we've got a thought process here that says, well, actually, if this is a range, this is the range low. If we deviate it again every other time, it's reclaimed and it's sent. Fine, great. Conversely, here, if we break out, that's when I want to be paying attention. So, I want to be at the extremes of ranges. Is a very is a much shorter way of saying what I've just been babbling on about. Does that make sense, guys, girls? I think on big green days, this is when people, want to deploy capital, but in my opinion, it's kind of too late. My Burt bag's looking good, but actually it's down. It needs a 10x to kind of go back to these highs. Pretty wild. Yeah, I'm just going to assume it's a range on a lot of alts until they've broken out. And this is why I've been so obsessed with Altcoin and a lot of CT has, is because it's got the structure to kind of support it. We've talked about it like several times, like this is a really strong downtrend, strong sell-off, but you've got that like reaccumulation in here. You've got that pivot across here. You've got all of it to kind of suggest that actually this is where reaccumulation happened. This is the first breakout. This is the next kind of accumulation range, and then this is the trending environment, right? And it's kind of the inverse of this it's that big booty pattern of like this massive, you know, cup and handle, I guess, if you want to go to like retarded, like old school TA. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get rid of all of that now. So yeah, we will talk about ETC. So I think if we can keep the Ethereum strength, I say strength, you know, it being green on the day, and some form of ETH, you know, not dying. I want to say strength, but it's you know, not massive weakness is probably the better way of putting it. Then I think Ethereum Cash, or Ethereum Classic rather, is the one. But it's kind of a little bit late to jump in this entry now, because obviously your entry looks like this. You have to start changing that. But yeah, I think if we get something like this, I could be tempted. Right, so any questions, chat? Anything that you want me to take a peep at? For me, Bitcoin's quite simple. Just a little bit of a patience game. ETH, I don't think there's a decent trade there. Sol ETH is, you know, up and to the right. Sol BTC, similar, like it's starting to recover. And Sol USD, like this is kind of the we range for a bit scenario, right? We range for a bit and then we break up, and then there you go, that's the kind of long somewhere up here. You're long in the breakout of value, essentially. Chat is sidelined. I mean, Vanry is just heavy. Very heavy. It's like most alts, right? Strong downtrend, starting to kind of recover it, but I mean, it's got a fucking long way. If you bought back at the highs, yeah, you're looking at like a 13x to break even if you were the top blaster on Vanry. But this is the problem, the market can't support loads of altcoins at the moment, which is why asset selection and why spaghetti is kind of key to trading, in my opinion. You either just trade Bitcoin or you go on chain and do some memes. There's actually a few decent ones that have popped the last few days, things like Troll, a few other ones. You know, there is a little bit more life in the trenches than there was. Bitcoin dominance, we kind of talked about Bitcoin dominance before, and we've talked about it on most streams, I think. You know, for me, it's the same story as up and to the right. I don't really want to try and action any kind of divs from an RSI perspective. I think, you know, the way that it is structured is decent in terms of it's just going like literally up and to the right. There's no real reason to think it'll be different unless we start changing this trajectory and we lose this kind of trend line. But for now, my bias has always been that, well, always, but for the last few months at least, that Bitcoin is going to be the dominant one, not necessarily because it's going up, but because it's not dying as much as all the other shitcoins, right? When more memes recover, bro? Got killed on those. I mean, I've got some bad news for you, to be honest. I don't think they're going to recover. I think there's, you know, pockets about performance, but if you look at the likes of... Have a look. Have a look at the likes of Pepe. Do I think Pepe is ever going to hit all-time high ever again? No. Probably not. I think Pepe is a good meme. It's a strong meme. But we've seen the fact that people tend to prefer new over old, and we've seen it with stuff like Doge, right? So Doge, in terms of cycles, yes, it can kind of show you that we're entering a very risk-on era, and I think, you know, this shows us that this rotation is very risk-on. But do I think that we've got the sustenance to... Where is Doge? How bizarre. Do I think we've got the sustenance and the juice to kind of run it back turbo? No, I think a lot of coins have hit their all-time highs, and that'll be them done, right? Similarly to Doge, like last cycle, basically unwound this entire pump. You know, incredible that it got to 45 cents or whatever, 48 cents. But I think a lot of coins, because you got to think, like, back here, there was, you know, a few thousand coins. Now there's fucking millions of the things. So it's going to be more fighting for attention for more projects who want more buyers who, you know, do I buy, which one of these shitcoins do I buy? Like, fucking hell, who knows? Which one's going to run? Don't know. It's much easier when you've got a choice of two, isn't it? Is it A or is it B? Is it A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Or is it A, B, C, 1, 2? You know, like, there's Fartcoin 2.0 now. Like, it's mad. I'm only going to do one of those. So I don't know what eels and squid are, but TRX has been, you know, an absolute joke. It's just been up and to the right. Like, just ever since its inception, really. Yeah. Tired. So we want about Justin. He runs a very tight ship. And you know, it is just kind of up and to the right. Trying to get the parabola to fit. Maybe he gets one blow off leg up. So yeah, sorry BYC 313. Not ideal, my brother. Oh, so many coins in the bin. But equally, like, look at high time frame, look at like this chart. Again, total crypto market cap. You know, doesn't look too bad. All-time high retest, consolidation, and then potentially Fox. Like, I love that setup. I love that thought process. So does anyone got any questions? Any thing that they want to kind of go over? Because I don't really have too much in terms of what the next steps are. You know, I think we just see what happens with Bitcoin. Got a good Fartcoin run going. Oh, that's me. Some people say they will rebuy higher, then they say the same thing again when it's higher. Yeah, maybe. I mean, a lot of people say a lot of things, right? And sometimes it's hard to execute, sometimes it's hard to just dip your finger in or dip your toe in or whatever, however you want to put it. You know, I could smash a load of market buys in right now and probably not care too much about BTC. Depending on, you know, how wide I wanted the stops to be. You know, could do something just like literally like this and be like, you know what? I'm so confident that it's going to infinity. We'll just do this. Send to him, we'll go, yeah, bosh, there we go. But, you know, would I take that trade on any other coin? Probably not. You know, if I was a bit more aggressive, could have taken it down here. They're much better in terms of like RR to do something like this. But yeah, there's always another trade as well. And like for me, I've had the same thought process for what has been months now. You know, this, you've probably seen me draw this box 100 times. Short and Fartcoin at 1.3. You know, this is a hero trade. If you want to do it, you know, go for it. I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do. But, you know, bearing in mind, what you are trying to do is catch the top of the strongest asset of the last month, basically. And, you know, or the last couple of months, like off the lows. Like, do you really want to be the one that stands in front of a runaway freight train? Like, yeah, if you catch it, you can probably get a good 30, maybe 50% off it when it does die, because it will. You know, it will have a pullback, and the pullback will be brutal at some point. But I don't know. Long until you're wrong is my kind of attitude with highly trending risk on altcoins. Nice to have you back, Charlie. Good to the voice of reason again. I do try. I mean, I might go full like Mooncarl arc and just be like, I can't believe we're up 35% in 24 hours in the paid group. Come join. You know, are you tired of being poor? And do that kind of stuff. We might go down that route. Haven't decided yet. But no, I try and be genuinely like I didn't go balls deep at the lows. You guys know it. You know, I haven't been massively piling into Bitcoin, you know, or like these alts down here like PopCap, because the thing that I'm afraid of is I don't know which one of these is going to like start really running first, right? Let's say we're in hyper bullish conditions here. Let's just say, for argument's sake, we are in a bull market. All the moon cars are right. It's going to 300k, and we are just, you know, this pullback from 109 down to 74 is just like a bull market correction, right? And now we're going to get the biggest face mountain run of all time. Great. Well, you know, for me, the way that I like to do it in these kind of markets where we've had a strong sell-off, we've got a consolidation, and then hopefully we start getting breakouts. Those breakouts, the ones that go first, so Fartcoin, are usually the ones that absolutely rip and continue to rip for a long time, right? Then the next ones to go, they will do similar, but obviously it's delayed because Fartcoin has been taking the mind share, it's been taking a huge part of the capital, yada yada yada. So there's going to be, if we are in super bullish conditions, even PopCat, even looking at this chart right in front of me, right? Like, look, it's similar, very similar to Pepe. Like, if this is the consolidation and the base for PopCat, well, great. I'll just take something like this and I'll play it for the next leg. Not a problem. Not a problem. We'll play this. You know, especially if there's some relative strength. But yeah, with regards to shorting Fartcoin, good luck. Like, hope it works out for you. But, you know, even here, from like a relative strength basis, it's the second strongest coin. Thanks for doing TRX. I think I just said it's pretty damn redonkulous in terms of being bullish. I don't actually think I gave a trade setup or idea or anything like that, which is a bit of a cop out. But let's go here. You know, so we're on the daily. You know, this is kind of the not a perfect example. This is a lovely example of a really clean level going across here. Yeah, we would expect that the next time that this kind of gets tested, that we actually get a decent move, especially if the market is in like strong conditions. Now, depending on how aggressive you want to be with it, like for me, I don't want to be aggressive ever, really. I want to kind of jump in after kind of confirmation or after some relative strength or a bit of both in terms of like, you know, a range reclaim. That's a terrible one. Let's do this. You know, sell off, reclaim, like bosh. There we go. You know, that kind of nice simple setup here would look more like that, as in we break up, we break out, and we essentially flip this resistance, which has been resistance, you know, here, 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 etc. You know, back there. We flip that to support, and then we go. And in that, like that process, that's where I get kind of confident in the longs. You know, up here. When Moas? What's that? I'm Big Short. I've already done the Big Short, mate. I'm slowly round tripping it. Trump was the Big Short, wasn't it? This has like real squeeze potential as well, I think. So yeah, I need to be a bit careful. Let's have a peep. The funding's neutralized. That's good. That's good. There were a lot of shorts potentially on this. Altcoin trade paid for America trip. Fair play. Didn't actually pay for all of it. It paid for a huge part of it, yeah. But yeah, we've got a lot of other costs coming from that. Altcoin chart is piled with corpses of the bears. Yeah, it's just, you know, standing in front of a freight train is the best way I can explain it, in my opinion. I saw Nero, it's Nero ripped, which is good. You know, again, like, it's hard for me because this one hasn't got like many levels particularly, and I like levels as kind of confluent places to take profits or enter a position. And like right now, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and it's not as clean as most of the other charts that we've looked at. Right, so it's kind of like in the middle of these two levels. Yeah, so I can't really do anything with that. I don't want to buy it. I don't want to sell it. Like, it's a nice move, but I missed it, and there's just kind of on to the next one for me. You know, even stuff like MicroStrategy. You know, potentially, this is kind of like, I know it's like the classic meme TA or of like, oh, this is what's the saying, like, this decision point, but it kind of really feels like that. It really feels like the next leg of the market is kind of going to be decided in the next couple of days. You know, if we reject here, you know, for the third time essentially since February, then that's probably, you know, down to range lows. We're just kind of a ranging, oscillating market that most people aren't prepared for. And yeah, my America trip was fucking expensive. Not gonna lie. I'm broke, I'm gonna have to go get a fucking McDonald's job. That's it, it's over for me. Between all the hotels they had to pay for my wife and the, you know, expensive phone bills and stuff. Lots of short squeezes just across the board. Big Pengu. You know, most of these are like, this is why, like when I talked about it before, you know, this is exactly why, you know, I want to see breakouts of a diagonal and or reclaims. Like they're the two things that, you know, give me invalidations here and here to stop you from getting absolutely rinsed in a huge downtrend that's doing this. Yeah. I don't think I've got too much more to say, to be honest. I haven't got too much more going on in my mind in terms of market thoughts and, you know, what's going on. Like, obviously, there's been a lot of weakness in TradFi in terms of like this huge sell-off again, tariff wars and all that kind of shite. And it's starting to recover, which is nice, but BTC massively outperforming that. Dollar dying a death as everyone kind of moves away from the dollar, and USD GBP or cable trade or whatever is one of those trades where, you know, it was good to cash out as much as I did kind of back here in like December time, but now, you know, I thought my my stable coins would be stable, but there's no such thing as GBPT. You know, Great British Pound Tether. It's sadly all USD. So this was one trade which I probably lost more than I should have done if I was if I was thinking about it a little bit more. I did, like I said, I did cash out a lot back here, but I had enough, like, over through this period that it was yeah, more than I would have liked to have given back, particularly for the notion of being in stable coins. Should I check out Fartcoin on base? Been in since 25 mil. I'm not one for like the 700th derivative of Fartcoin. Do you know what I mean? Thoughts on Athena? It's probably like Athena, right? Yeah, obviously that divergence didn't play out the way we would have liked it. It's the same as like most of the other alts that we've talked about. So strong downtrending price action. The first time it's really come up for air, and if you look at like local levels, like this is kind of resistance across this area here, right? There. Do I really want to be longing here for, you know, this kind of game from here to here? No, I've missed a lot of this move. Like this, you know, I've missed this, that's fine. So I'm always trying to think of, right, well, I've missed that, let's go cry about it. Well, no. If I wanted a bag of Ina, like, it would be this. I'd want to see something like that. USDT to $5, yeah. Steady money man, raid round to go. Experiences that you had on holes make your word better. Yeah, mate, I'm just trying to be humble about it. I don't really give a fuck about the money I spent. But there we go. Money is just it's just freedom tokens, isn't it? How you spend your time, what you do with it. You know, my personal expenses for living is a new PC once every 3 years. And that's an electricity bill, and that's pretty much it. And food. But yeah. Should we see 100k to 500 mil runner if we say bull? Yeah, I think we do. I think, you know, the trenches are definitely cooking up. There's a few runners on there. A couple of my friends who are very active in the trenches have done really well the last few days. Caught some bangers. So yeah. We'll see. Don't get why people don't just long the strongest asset, they need to be the hero. Yeah, and it works sometimes, right? Because you can catch a really nice reversion trade off stuff like Fartcoin, but like let's be objective about here, right? And let's say, Charlie, your life depends on you fucking shorting Fartcoin for like 30-40%, right? So, you know, at the moment, like what signs are there that this is weak? So let's look at, you know, rotations. Okay, so latest 1 minute rotation. It is, if I pivot it correctly, it is the second strongest coin in the market that I have selected in my little basket. The second. So are there any divergences heading across these highs? Kind of. If you squint, but it's actually maintaining. Let's have a look. No, it's actually maintaining everything, isn't it? There you go, there's your first one. Well, that's a little bit of a div, but it's a bit shit. On the hourly, like, it's very janky. And what it hasn't had, you know, that's pretty horrible. What it hasn't had to me is that kind of like either clear loss of momentum or real strong wick up. You know, you could argue these are, but I think it's, you know, it should be much bigger because, and it should only be one, right? It shouldn't be consistently like we've pushed, we failed, we've pushed, we failed, we've pushed, we failed. Like if it keeps pushing like that, it's because it wants to go up, right? And it's still very, very strong. If it does it once and just gets instantly fucking battered down, you've probably found the top, right? You've probably found the kind of pico, you know, where the sellers are willing to unwind their inventory. Whereas that is not that. You know, there's nothing about this that makes me go, yeah, I want to just short the fuck out of this. So that's what I'd be waiting for, like some real high time frame divergences. It to lose some relative strength, or it to print a big fuck off candle that then just starts getting instantly sold off into. Yeah, and I mean a big fuck off candle. But that trade is very, very difficult to manage, and you have to be very fast. Times 3 since Bitcoin 74k, and do you want a short Fartcoin? Have fun staying poor. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Is like we've talked about structure on alts, right? And I'm just gonna go for a fresh chart because let's have a peep. Yeah, there we go. Like strong downtrend. Like this pivot here is exactly where most other altcoins are. The people have said, oh, what about Pepe? What about this? What about this? You know, they're in this period here. And finally over here, you know, it's pushed out. It's then retested it completely cleanly down here. And now it's ran. Like, and even in these scenarios, like even in these local ranges, it was one of the first to break out. Even in this range, first to break out. You know, it's leading the market, whether you like it or not. I mean, I don't particularly like it, right? I think it's pretty gay. It's pretty like, what a great industry we are. The best thing we can come up with is essentially Tether and Fartcoin. Like, it's pretty shite, to be honest. You know, calling myself a professional Fartcoin trader is just, yeah, depressing. I did talk about ETH, mate. And no, I'm not really planning on leaving the UK. Oh, iRise's tweets make me cringe. Yeah. No team, no calls. You sure about that? Every coin has a team, doesn't it? I like the fact that that's a narrative, but I'm not sure that that's true. But maybe I'm just what's it, paranoid. You know, at the end of the day, we're all getting excited about pumps like these, right? Like, don't get me wrong, make good money out of it, but we've forgotten what a bull market really feels like. Unless, of course, you're buying Fartcoin, but yeah, I won't be going wild with the risk. More important news, actually, I am now well above water on my hype buys that I bought over here. Probably my worst performing trade of the year, in terms of the fact that I bought a load in here. I ate the full dick, the full drawdown of 50, or I think it was 45, yeah, 46%. I think it was 45 for me personally, so it gives you my average. I ate all of that, and now I'm comfortably up 7 or 8%. Happy days. What a treat for us all. I just thought I'd flex my 8% gains after a 50% drawdown. But also so that you guys know that, you know, we all have the odd bad trade. Botguy looks good. Yeah, it does look pretty good. Personally looking to go long alts in confidence, Bitcoin 82, 84. So you think Bitcoin pulls back to 82, 84? I think if it goes that low, then that's... So back to potentially your earlier question of like what levels would make me feel like this up move is kind of over. Like if you look at this and you look at it kind of structurally, there's two bits. Like there's there, and then there's kind of just above it. There's like here, right? Which I don't take much from this, but hear me out one sec, right? So if you're saying that, you know, we go back to like 82 and 84, if for me that's like so low that this attempt to break out is like, that's like last chance saloon for the market, right? And you're right, if we hold up there, let's have a look. Let's go like, because you said 82 to 84. So yeah, I suppose that's the if we're holding up there, then great. But if it starts like losing that level, then it's just like, down, omega downtrend confirmed, and this is just an attempt to kind of break said downtrend that gets rejected at a key pivotal level, which from a trend continuation perspective isn't unreasonable. But yeah, I wouldn't be getting super bullish here. I'd kind of be expecting like a short-term bounce and then this. Does that make sense? We're going to break 92k live? I hope so. That'd be nice. Could you check NPC? Yeah, I can check NPC. Yeah, momentum's holding up pretty well, even across this. Non-playable coin. Looks like we've checked it before. Again, strong downtrend. Accumulation. New higher low over here, and play for a rotation. I know there's a lot of people showing the share of this. Hit perfect retest. What did? How do we even choose alts these days, man? There's so many of the fuckers. Unbelievable. I remember in 2017 when there was like 50. I could name every single one of them and like draw the logo, do you know what I mean? Probably tell you how many coins are in circulation and the rough daily volumes as well. It was mental. Absolutely mental. I think I'll do some FOMO tweets as well, stuff like this. Total market cap, retesting the highs. Off we go. And you wanted XRP. I'll do XRP and then I'll probably go. Probably smash some World of Warcraft or something. Like XRP BTC again, like it's one of those ones where it's really difficult to get excited about XRP because it's kind of like had its cycle massively. We caught XRP before, and we did all of this run, and I thought it was going to go to 589 for the meme, but like from a short-term perspective, like this is nice, right? Diagonal break, holding up this range, not exactly terrible. And if you're confident that the bottom's in and yada yada yada, going for something like this with target 1 being range high and target 2 being somewhere up here, not the worst trade I've ever seen, but because it hasn't got the relative strength and because I think we're going to reject from 92k on BTC purely based off I want it to reject, and if it doesn't reject and it forces through, then I'm buying between 92 and 93. And I'm just piling in some spot for hopefully a decent swing to the highs. But yeah, I would much rather be trying to long a stronger coin like Farcoin, like we talked about earlier. Tesla. I'm going to trade more stonks, actually. I think even Tesla, right? Like, all I can see going across here is like this. Like, this is what I mean. It's like, this is downtrending price action. I'm never the one that buys the lows. I'll buy this. I'll buy that. And what's more likely to happen is a bit of consolidation first, and then that. Right? Because it kind of needs to, like, cool off. Yeah, you can short range low breakdowns. I find that they're much harder and that you have to be, in the zone on those very much. But yes, you can. Yes, what I will do, ladies and gentlemen, is I will love you and leave you all. because I think that's kind of a wrap. Zhao, yeah, I was looking at this earlier in terms of like, this is a nice parabola. If you get a lower high like that, then that's a lovely short setup. I love that short setup in terms of parabola into lower high. It's just, yeah, I'm not going to say it's free money. There's no such thing as like a free money, low risk or no risk trade. But it's, you know, very, very good in terms of how much it's paid me over the years. You know, this candle looks pretty horrific. If you get this kind of like that, you break the parabola with a lower high, that's great. Even if it's just like a, you know, short-term short, as in you're only targeting one of these two levels, right? You're not going for like something fucking ridiculous like let's say we get this and we get not early, but we get not late either, so we break that, we have a stop up here. You know, even if we're going for that, it's like not particularly great, but if we come back down to here, you know, it's a decent sort of 2.5 hour trade, and you can get size and stuff like gold. You know, if the world calms its tits on tariff wars, then oh, Tesla's got earnings today, is it? Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, that's the only time I'd consider shorting it. Yeah, it is really strong, and you, again, you are facing into like the headwinds of globally everyone's piling into gold because they don't trust, well, Trump, really. Yeah, on that base, on that bombshell, thank you all for being here. Like, subscribe, and do all that stuff, and I will put more stuff on the channel, and we will all live the proverbial dream. And then I will speak to you next week. Au revoir. Thank you all for being here.